Hi, my name is Eric Peabody, and I'm a voice actor and audio engineer based out of Rochester, New York. You might have heard my voice on the Horror Hill podcast and Thinker YouTube channels, and you've heard my engineering work on the Strange Studies of Strange Stories podcast, as well as others. All of my voiceover and narration work is done with this microphone right here, which is a Neumann TLM102. However, today what I'm going to be doing is comparing it to a different microphone, this guy. This is the Neat Audio King B2. Both of these are large diaphragm condenser microphones that require phantom power and use an XLR connection. So if you are used to using USB microphones, you would need at the bare minimum an audio interface and an XLR cable to run either of these. Now, the Neumann TLM102 weighs just about half a pound, and the list price is $909 US. You can usually find it on Amazon brand new for about $729. The King B, on the other hand, weighs about 2.5 pounds with the included shock mount, which is a nice bonus, and it retails for $169.99, and you can find it for about $120 on Amazon. In the interest of transparency, I want to let you know that Neat Audio did provide me with this microphone for free so that I could review it, but don't worry, we're going to stay very impartial here. In case you're wondering, there are timestamps in the description of the video, so if you want to skip ahead to either the sound samples or the unboxing or the conclusion, you are welcome to do so. Now, the King B2 here came in a rather large box for a microphone. It does not include a case, but it is very nicely packaged. Let's take a look. This thing is so big, it's kind of hard to get out of here properly. There we go. And inside we have a quick start guide. We have another mic connector, and we have the main event itself, which is the microphone, which comes in the shock mount. That's how it was shipped to me. This is the mic itself. It looks really nice. It has a nice shock mount included, XLR connection at the bottom, and the whole thing just feels really solid. This is a heavy microphone, so if you're going to be using this on a boom arm or something that has this hanging out at a distance, you really want to make sure that the mic stand is weighted down properly because you don't want this tipping down and hitting the floor. Now that you've had a chance to take a quick look at it, we're going to listen to how the mic sounds, which is the most important thing. I'm going to be recording the audio with both mics simultaneously. You're going to hear the raw audio, then we're going to talk about some of the differences between the mics, and you're going to hear both of them processed to see what they are both capable of. So prepare for a little bit of a dip in mic quality because we are removing all of the lovely post-processing I do to my voice, and you're going to be hearing the raw audio coming out of both of these mics. Somewhere high above, the moon shines down, fat and full. But here, in Tarker's Mills, a January blizzard has choked the sky with snow. The wind rams full force down a deserted Center Avenue. The Orange Town plows have given up long since. Arnie Westrom, flagman on the GS and WM Railroad, has been caught in the small tool and signal shack 9 miles out of town. With his small, gasoline-powered rail rider blocked by drifts, he is waiting out the storm here, playing last man out solitaire with a pack of greasy bicycle cards. Outside, the wind rises to a shrill scream. Somewhere high above, the moon shines down, fat and full. But here, in Tarker's Mills, a January blizzard has choked the sky with snow. The wind rams full force down a deserted Center Avenue. The Orange Town plows have given up long since. Arnie Westrom, flagman on the GS and WM Railroad, has been caught in the small tool and signal shack 9 miles out of town. With his small, gasoline-powered rail rider blocked by drifts, he is waiting out the storm here, playing last man out solitaire with a pack of greasy bicycle cards. Outside, the wind rises to a shrill scream. Now that you've heard the raw recorded audio, we're going to be taking a look at these files in our DAW. This is Reaper. This is what I use for all of my audio editing and processing. So at the top, we have the TLM102, and we will color this just to make it easy to stand out and recognize. And at the bottom, we have our Neat Audio King B2, which we will make... Oh, that's wrong. I know the color we need to make this, because it's a B. There we go. So top is TLM102, bottom is King B2. And right now, there's been no processing done to these, except we've done a bit of volume adjusting because the input levels are slightly different. So we just leveled those out a little bit so they're coming in at roughly the same volume level. So first off, what I want to do is show you that I have captured some spectrum analysis of both of these mics, and I'm going to be putting those up on the screen right now. This is an audio plugin called Metric AB, and I use it to analyze a bunch of different audio stuff that I do. Right now, what we're using it for is looking at the frequency response of both of these microphones. Right now, we're looking at the TLM102, as you can see up there, and now we're looking at the King B2. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust the King B layer. This is all in Photoshop, by the way. This is nothing fancy. I just did some screen grabs. And I'm minimizing the opacity of the King B2 so we can see them both at the same time. You can see this jumbled gobbledygook up there. So they look in a lot of places in the EQ spectrum very similar. I would say that from here up to about here, so maybe 250 hertz up to about 2 kilohertz, it's nearly identical. Once we get above 2 kilohertz, we start seeing that the King B is a little more prominent in the highs. And once we get below, say, 250 down to maybe, 50 hertz or so, once again, we have more prominence in the King B. And then we have this thing over here. Down in the low sub-frequencies, starting probably about 50 hertz and then increasing as we go lower, there is a noticeable increase in low end in the King B. Now, once again, this is the TLM102. There's the King B overlay. So this is, for some reason, picking up a ton more sub-frequencies. Now, one thing to mention is that this King B2 was on a mic stand on my desk, and the TLM102 is on a boom arm connected to a separate structure, so it's decoupled from the desk. I am reluctant to believe that that is responsible for this, but it's worth mentioning. Let's jump back over to Reaper. So what I'm going to do first is select a passage from the reading here, and I'm going to play it back and switch between the mics, so you can really hear on a case-by-case basis how similar they sound or don't sound without any processing except for the audio leveling. So first, we're going to be listening to the TLM102. But here, in Tarker's Mills, a January blizzard has choked the sky with snow. And now we're listening to the Neat Audio King B2. But here, in Tarker's Mills, a January blizzard has choked the sky with snow. Pretty similar. Let's jump back and forth between the two a few times, and that way we can really hear the difference. So you'll see as I'm switching around. We're going to start with the TLM102 and then switch between them. But here, in Tarker's Mills, a January blizzard has choked the sky with snow. Once again, pretty similar. Let's loop a smaller section so you can really hear the difference. Let's find a nice little snippet. What is this? This looks good. 9 miles out of town, 9 miles out of town, 9 miles out of town, 9 miles out of town. You're probably sick to death of hearing that now. So already they sound pretty similarly, but we're going to take it one step further because, you can produce audio. You can do things to it after you record it. So what I've done here is I've taken an EQ plugin called Newfangled Audio Equivocate. I like this guy a lot. And what you can use this to do is EQ match between two different sources. Now, I've already done that. I basically routed the audio from the TLM track onto the King B track. I told it to listen to it as it played both, and these settings here are what it came up with to make them sound identical. Now, of course, there's going to be a little bit of variation here, but I want to show you how close it is. I can close that guy, and now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to jump back and forth between these lines, and we're going to leave that plug-in on so you can hear the difference. So this is the TLM102, and we're going to switch over to the King B. 9 miles out of town, 9 miles out of town, 9 miles out of town, 9 miles out of town. And for you audio people out there that know about phase canceling, we're going to flip the phase on one of these. In theory, if these are exactly identical, it should null out and we should hear nothing. That is not going to be the case here, but I want you to hear what that null results in. 9 miles out of town, 9 miles out of town, 9 miles out of town. Now, let's take this a step further. What I have done is I have taken these two files, the TLM102 recording and the King B2 recording. I have processed the King B2 through that EQ, and then what I did is ran them both through my normal voiceover processing chain. This is everything I do to take the audio I normally record through my TLM102 and get it ready for sending off to a client, usually for the Horror Hill stuff. This is the chain I use for that. So we have two processed files now, and in theory, these are going to sound pretty similar. That being said, since we've done a lot of processing to it, that could also augment any differences. So let's listen to the two processed sounds, one after the other, and see what we think. This, we got to flip these there. This is the TLM102, but here in Tarker's Mills. But here in Tarker's Mills. And now the King B. But here in Tarker's Mills. But here in Tarker's Mills. And let's flip between them a few times. But here in Tarker's Mills. 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 And let's listen to a null, or a phase inverted version rather. But here in Tarker's Mills. So, when it comes down to it, they do sound different, but I don't think that they sound so different that I couldn't use one mic to do a quick pickup line and replace it in a pre-recorded script for the other or anything like that. So, at the end of the day, what's the conclusion here? We have the TLM102, which is an industry standard mic. It's been around for a long time. Retails for $909. You can get it for about $730 new. We have the Neat Audio King B2. This is a newer microphone. It retails for about $170, and you can get one brand new from Amazon for around $120. I am reluctant to say that you should buy a King B2 over a TLM102 if you don't consider the cost. I think this is the better microphone. I have a lot of experience with it, and I trust it. However, for $120, this is damn good. And as you've heard, we can get it sounding very similar to the TLM102. If you're looking to get into voiceover, or if you're looking to upgrade from a Blue Yeti or something like that and get your first XLR mic, the King B2 is a killer option. It's not going to break the bank. It sounds pretty damn good. Some of the downsides are that it does require an audio interface. So if you aren't used to using one of those, if you only are used to using USB microphones, that's going to be an additional expense. However, any professional level microphone is going to require that sort of connectivity, so it might be good to bite the bullet and get that done now. Also, another thing to mention again is that this is a heavy microphone. This is 2.5 pounds. It's solid. I don't worry about it breaking. I could probably use it to defend my home if there was a break-in, but it's definitely heavier than I like in a microphone. That, coupled with the fact that it doesn't come with a case, means that you're probably going to be keeping it on location wherever you set it up. That being said, this does come with a shock mount, which is really nice. So, this is a pretty nice little mic. Not little, but it's a pretty nice mic for a pretty nice cost. I don't think I'm going to use it every day, but I am going to keep it around. If my TLM102 dies for any reason and I need to wait a week for a new one to ship, I'm pretty confident I could swap in the King B2 and get comparable results, at least in the short term. So if you're looking for something to practice VO, to get started with narration, anything like that, you could do a whole lot worse than this. Thanks for taking the time to watch. Have a good one.